Marcus never sent the letter. He didn't need to. Someone else did it for him. Marcus had been a senior accountant at a logistics firm for 6 years. He was good at his job the way quiet people are good at things. Completely, and without needing anyone to notice. He managed 3 major client accounts. He trained 2 of the analysts below him. He'd never missed a deadline, never failed an audit, never given the firm a reason to look twice. What he had done over 6 years was watch. The first time Greg took credit for his work, Marcus figured it was an oversight. It was a quarterly review presentation. Marcus had built the entire report, the figures, the analysis, the recommendations. Greg presented it to senior leadership on a Tuesday morning. Marcus wasn't in the room. He found out from a colleague who was. He said nothing, told himself it wouldn't happen again. It happened again. 6 months later, a client Marcus had managed for 3 years sent a company-wide email praising the strategic direction of their account. They thanked Greg by name. Greg forwarded the email to leadership with one line added at the top. "Proud of what we've built here." Marcus had built it. Every call, every strategy session, every deliverable for 3 years. His name wasn't in the foreword. He saved the email to a folder on his desktop. He labeled the folder Admin, and he kept working. In his 4th year, Marcus was told he was being considered for a senior leadership role. His manager told him directly. Greg told him directly, "You're the strongest candidate we have internally. We want to keep this in-house." Marcus spent 3 months preparing. He documented his client results, his team contributions, his growth numbers. He put together a case for himself the same way he'd put together a case for a client account. Thoroughly, without gaps. Then the role was posted externally. He found out on a Monday morning when the job listing showed up on the company website. He went to Greg's office and asked what happened. Greg told him the business needs had shifted. The role required a different profile now. Marcus nodded, went back to his desk, opened the admin folder, added a new file. 2 weeks later, Greg's brother-in-law started in the role Marcus had been promised. The guy had 18 months of experience in an unrelated industry. Marcus had 6 years in this one. He said nothing. He kept the folder. He kept working. In his 5th year, Marcus got a performance review that didn't reflect any conversation he'd ever had with Greg. It cited missed deadlines that hadn't happened. It noted communication issues that had never been raised. It scored him below the threshold for his annual bonus. Marcus requested a copy of the review in writing. Greg sent it that afternoon. Marcus compared it to the notes he'd kept from every quarterly check-in for 2 years. They didn't match. Not in tone, not in substance, not in fact. He forwarded the original review to his personal email. He saved Greg's version separately. He labeled both files with the date. He didn't confront Greg. He didn't go to HR. He opened a job board that evening and started searching. In March of his 6th year, he found what he was looking for. Better firm, better title, $12,000 more a year. He accepted the offer on a Friday afternoon and gave himself the weekend before handing in his notice. That Sunday night, he opened his laptop and did something he hadn't planned to do. He wrote the letter. It wasn't a resignation letter. Not exactly. It was 6 years of documentation compressed into 4 pages. Every instance where Greg had taken credit for Marcus's work. Every fabricated review cited by date. The brother-in-law hire, with the job posting attached. Names, figures, dates, all of it. He didn't write it to send. He wrote it because he needed to see it laid out in front of him before he walked away. A record for himself. Proof that he hadn't imagined any of it. He saved it to the firm's shared drive. not intentionally. He was working from a folder he used every day. He closed the laptop and went to bed. Monday morning, he came in, handed Greg his resignation, and felt nothing but relief. He had 2 weeks left. He planned to serve them quietly and leave without another word. Greg had other plans. 3 days after handing in his notice, Marcus was called into a meeting with HR. Greg was already in the room. HR slid a printed document across the table. It was the letter. Greg had found it on the shared drive the morning after Marcus resigned. He'd printed it, highlighted the sections that named him, and walked it into HR before Marcus had finished his first coffee. His framing was simple. Marcus had fabricated everything in the document. It was a disgruntled employee trying to damage his reputation on the way out. He wanted Marcus dismissed immediately, without notice pay. And he wanted the letter formally documented as a workplace conduct violation. Marcus read the printed copy across the table. He looked at HR. He looked at Greg. He said one thing: "I'd like to respond in writing." He went home that night and opened his personal laptop. Not the work one. He had 48 hours before HR expected his written response. He used every minute of them. The letter he'd written had named dates and figures. What it hadn't included was the evidence behind them. Marcus had that too. Emails forwarded to his personal account over 2 years. Screenshots of the original performance review before it was altered. A message thread where Greg had explicitly told him the role was his, before giving it to his brother-in-law. He'd kept all of it, not because he planned to use it, because he was an accountant. Documentation was instinct. His written response to HR was 11 pages. Every claim in the original letter was backed by a primary source. Every date was verified. Every figure was traceable. He submitted it at 6 a.m. on Wednesday. Then he went into the office and finished his work. Here's what Greg hadn't considered. HR had to read the response, and HR had to act on what they found. The altered performance review, that was the problem. Marcus had the original version with a timestamp. Greg had the submitted version with a different timestamp. They didn't match. That wasn't a dispute between two employees. That was a falsified company document. HR escalated to legal that afternoon. Marcus was called back in on Thursday. This time, Greg wasn't in the room. They asked if he intended to pursue the matter formally. He told them he was leaving in 9 days regardless. What they did with the information was their decision. He stood up, thanked them for their time, and went back to his desk. Greg was placed on administrative leave the following Monday. Marcus's last day was the Friday before. He cleared his desk in 20 minutes. He said goodbye to the 2 analysts he trained. He didn't say goodbye to Greg. The investigation that followed lasted 6 weeks. Marcus was contacted once by the firm's legal team to verify 2 dates in his documentation. He verified them and heard nothing further. Greg was terminated for falsification of company records. The brother-in-law left 3 weeks later. The role Marcus had been promised was posted externally. He didn't apply. He was already 2 weeks into his new job by then. Better firm, better title, $12,000 more a year. The letter he wrote that Sunday night was never meant to leave his laptop. It didn't need to be. Marcus didn't plan any of it. He didn't engineer the outcome or calculate the move. He wrote a letter for himself, made one mistake saving it, and then did the only thing he knew how to do. He documented everything. That was enough. The next case is different. No documents, no paper trail. This is served cold files, new cases every week.